Transitioning from Chantal, I just want to give homage to a lot of the developmental theorists, psychological theorists that have impacted our world and our understanding of how people develop from develop from an immature stage to a mature stage. William Perry, who is the theorist that I am going to start with, is the first one who has been noted to apply this developmental theory to students. He is one of the ones. William Perry passed away about 20 years ago, so I know he will not be in the audience. Question to me. William Perry was a Harvard professor who is a Harvard professor who for 15 years studied the development of students. He had questionnaires. It was a very quantitative, qualitative study to determine how students move from a very dualistic perspective, from an immature perspective, to one where they can think critically. And we'll talk about that, because that's where, as student affairs professionals, that's where we want to go. So that's Perry. These are students who are transitioning, and these are our critical thinkers here who have gone through the continuum that he's going to outline. And so, in a nutshell, his theory is helping us to understand how students become knowledgeable of their own theories and beliefs. So throughout his 15-year study, he has developed a 9-phase. I just wanted to present this to you. I've kind of truncated it in my next slide, but I just wanted you to see that it's a very, very comprehensive scheme, as he calls it, to develop to identify how the students have transitioned from, I would say, childhood or an immature perspective where we think everything is either black and white, there's only one right answer for every situation, and this is kind of the dualistic perspective that he's talking about. And there are a couple of phases that he talks about that, and then he transitions to some others. Through the multiplicity, where you see that there are a couple of things, relativism and commitment. And I'm going to break those down. They are basically into 4 categories. So, in the early stage of dualism, where we think about young people from infancy up to maybe age 3 or 4, where, from their peers, their pastors, their parents have told them what is right and what is wrong. And so that is what their worldview is about, okay? Unfortunately, or fortunately, it's good for us to understand that a lot of our young adults who are entering our colleges are at this stage where they have not been exposed to a broader realm of understanding, that what they believe is the only way that things have happened. And so this is troubling for me, because one of my major tools that I use in my classrooms is the debate. These students want the information banked to them. They want to give you the correct answer on the exam. And so the controversial element is very difficult for them. So they do not welcome. A lot of my students say, I don't like to argue, I don't like to debate. And that's often because they have not been empowered. And as student affairs professionals, practitioners, it is our duty to empower them to think for themselves. The next stage is the level of uncertainty. And so I actually asked my students, when did you start realizing that the world was not round? I just had a debate on the world was round, world is flat. When did you start thinking about whether or not the theories and beliefs that you had as a younger person are the ones that you are holding now? Okay, so this is a very influx phase. It's an uncertain phase, where they are learning that what happened at an early age, what they learned at an early age, might not work. There might be some other perspective. So they begin to question their own opinion versus the correct answer to something. The third category is finding out that what is right in Professor Marshall's class is not right or acceptable in Professor Scott's class. This is where they contextualize things and understand that they have to really be savvy about understanding how to maneuver through their world, not based on preconceived notions, but based on what they can see and learn right now, because they've already started testing their opinion and understanding that there are other answers to the questions. So they weigh their opinions. And then the last stage, which is the stage where we want to move our students to, is the commitment. This is the 3 levels phase according to Dr. Perry. But this is when they enjoy demonstrating their own creative thinking, their own perspectives. And these are the students that I want that enjoy the debates, enjoy talking to adults. A lot of my 18, 19-year-old young adults are very used to a certain structure, being told what to do, but here they're kind of stretching their muscles and thinking critically. So my informal, formal theoretical contact starts with Perry, but as practitioners here in Morgan State, in very, very, very multicultural area, I layer that, or I connect that with 2 other theorists. One is an African-American woman, Bell Hooks, who's considered a feminist, an author, a writer, a social critic. She has authored many texts about race and culture and identity. And the second one is the Brazilian Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire is a very, very well known in literacy circles in terms of touching the oppressed or the disenfranchised. His main text is Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And so he is world known for empowering the disenfranchised to literacy, to changing their world. And so I have picked 2 quotes that really embody these 2 other authors. And one is, teaching is an act of resistance. Actually, Bell Hooks was a student of Paulo Freire. She was very disillusioned with the teachers that she met, because they didn't talk a good game. And if they did talk it, they didn't walk it. And so she wanted to be an educator. And so when she met Freire, he walked his talk. He walked his talk. Because a lot of teachers talk about critiquing society and being the change agents and out there, but within their classrooms, it's a very dictatorial kind of structure. And so what is very important for Belle was to find somebody who thought like her. And she said Paulo was the first teacher that she met who actually gave her, empowered her to teach the way her spirit was telling her to do. And so teaching is an act of resistance. Paulo's thing is education, either our current educational system, of which all of us are practitioners, students, faculty members, whatever, are teaching our students to either conform to society or to change it. Okay, so those are the 2 quotes that I believe embody some of the theories that I'm layering with Perry. All right, so why study educational theory? And one of our own, Dr. G.K., has talked about theory in terms of a critical examination, connecting theory with what's happening in our community colleges. I'm a professor of English at Montgomery College, and so this is, something that I know a little bit about. The other quote is one that talks about theory is important because we need you to develop new concepts and theories to give us a very fresh perspective on what's happening. Because we can go back to Plato and some of the Finney and some of the other, theorists that we study, but our millennials are much different and need a much different pedagogy, a much different support system to learn. And then the last slide just talks about the way in which we can apply our theoretical perspective in the classroom. And I'll just go through a couple of them. First of all, when we meet our students who have this I'm right, you're wrong, this dualistic perspective, it's our duty, I dare say, to challenge that and to help move them within our semesters that we are with them, to move them to becoming someone who's a critical thinker. So we can do that in various ways. I have debates, and I'd love to hear some ways in which you can empower your students to get out of their box and think about a more broad worldview. The second one is very personal to me. In developing my own theory, I do believe that dialogue is transformative, okay? And so that's the way we communicate with our students, through dialogue. So small conferences or whatever means we have in the classroom to actually let them speak. And then we have to listen to them as well. So Bell Hooks talks about, her disillusionment was because the intellectuals that she found did not have the spiritual connection or did not have the humanistic kind of angle. And so she found a lot of professors who were academics, were brilliant and all that, but did not care about the person. And so as student affairs practitioners, it's important for us to find out who our students are. Just kind of let them know exactly who they are. So there are a few other things. Deconstruct the classroom architecture. I feel like a hypocrite, sitting up here, one person talking to people. Really, our classroom architecture speaks a lot to the authority figures, and we really have to deconstruct that if we want our students to feel empowered. And so what's also very important is, creating an environment where students and teachers can talk to each other. A lot of our students are not comfortable talking with adults. So we have to kind of break that down, let them know that we're human as well. And then the last one, of course, is to connect. Everything has to be relevant. So connect our curriculum outcomes to sustainable skills that they can take with them. Team building, communication, technology, things like that. That will help them in the future. And we have to be very transparent with what those things are. So I think the combination of Perry, in addition to the theories of resistance that we have to look at, has helped me to form my theory that I put into practice in the classrooms as best I can. All right, so I'm going to turn the mic over now to your last presenter.
Excellent job.